Okay, so disclaimers. I do not know how to machine anything. So I am not teaching you how to machine. That is up to either you or someone who knows how, like Marvin here, who you can beg for help. What I can show you on this machine is its idiosyncrasies and how to power it up and home it and get it started, how to work the 1986 control panel. For those of you who don't know, I plan to upgrade it, hopefully in April, to have a modern system on it where you can just go look up how to use it because it's actually modern and well supported. The system as is, you're not going to be able to really use it as a CNC machine. You're pretty much going to have to use it manually. It obviously is a CNC machine, but there's not really a good way to connect to the outside world. So getting any G-code on it from whatever your CAM package is very difficult right now. That's the big push for why I'm going to upgrade it in April. So, step one of using it is to make sure it has air.
Yes, it does.
I know, but still, over there on the wall, the gray box, which Michael is about to point at, you flip that switch off. When you do, this thing here starts running, and after about 4 or 5 minutes, there's enough air pressure for it to run. If you don't do that, you get an air pressure alarm and just nothing works, and you sit here wondering, but it worked last time I was here, why doesn't it work now?
It is normal for the air system to hiss for the first 30 to 45 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, second thing you might need, I will pull it out here to show you, so everybody wait there. There's a plug right here.
Visible for this angle.
It's this conduit. There are two things back here that get plugged into it on occasion. One is this lathe over here, which is this connector. If that's plugged in and the mill's not going to turn on. The mill power cord, which actually is part of the upgrade, you won't have to worry about this. I'm going to hardwire it. But there is a cord for the mill. It has to be plugged into this outlet to work. Once you have power, on this cabinet over here, there's a switch. Very large switch. It's off on. Flip it on. It sometimes sticks. If it gives you a hard time, turn it slightly past off and try again. The machine is now on. When you're done, turn that off. It makes noise the whole time it's on, so hopefully you don't forget. What that did is power up all the main electronics. It did not turn on the controller. The power switch here, on. Give it a minute. You make a chunk once they power it up. Okay. 1986's finest, the Fanuc System 0M. Model A, if you try to look it up on the internet. Where is stuff? There's a whole bunch of mode stuff down here. This is all CNC stuff, so like the G codes that you can enter, any parameters you change. This whole thing over here, which actually is sort of removable, but don't, is the handle, what we would now call like the pulse generator. Is it still called a handle? It's a handheld thing. There's a switch on the back of it, a toggle switch, you can hear it flipping, that actually enables and disables this. Sometimes you actually need to know that and flip the switch. We'll get to that when we home it. There is a second switch, a button that can be pressed on the side. That's occasionally needed if you over-travel the machine. I'll try to purposely do that and show you what it's used for. Okay, so when the machine powers up, it does not know where its zero is. So it doesn't want to run any programs, it doesn't really even want to move. You're not going to watch me try to remember this after a couple weeks of not being here. Among the modes, we're going to put it in manual pulse generator, that's MPG, we're going to turn on the handle. That means we flip the switch in the back up. And with it in that mode and with the switch flipped, the handle light turns on. What's that? The toggle switch on the back of the handle that turns it on or off. That turns the handle on or off. Now with it in that mode and with the handle turned on, I have the X axis selected on here. If I turn this, the table is moving in the X direction. There is a little drawing here that's supposed to help you figure out which is X, Y, and Z, and which way is plus and minus. So I can run it back and forth. To home the machine, which is the thing we need to do to really be able to use it, there's switches on one end of each axis. If the machine is too close to that end when you try to home it, it will actually stupidly run past home before it notices it was too close and not work. So step one of using it is actually to make all the axes be kind of in the middle, not too near either end. So for instance, the Z-axis is pretty high. I can see, you guys can't see it, that it's actually touching its homing switch right now. So I'm going to bring that down. As an example, if I go the wrong way, I ran it over the end. It gave me an alarm that says over travel, Z. It's now, it actually won't even go up anymore. Sometimes it will lock completely, and that's this extra button up here that maybe I'll figure out how to demonstrate later. When an alarm happens like this, they latch on. Unfortunately, the only way to get rid of them is this reset button. The unfortunate thing about it is that resets the whole controller. If I had any positioning information saved, like I had known where my zeros were, they're gone now. So try not to have an alarm. Okay, I backed that one off a little. They're all kind of centered enough that now I can home the machine, hopefully. To home it, we go to the home mode. It's all the way on the left. We might have to turn the handle off. This will be an experiment. I don't remember. I pick an axis using these buttons here. So for instance, I'll home Z first. I can pick Z. It doesn't matter if I pick Z positive or negative. Oh yeah, it's not setting. So I do have to turn off the handle. Now Z lit up, actually both the plus and minus. So it's going to home the Z axis. I push home start. It's moving up pretty slowly and you can see the display. We got a PS alarm. I don't know what PS stands for, so we'll clear it and hope it doesn't happen again. So the Z axis is now home. Maybe it's not. I'm going to try X to see if I don't understand what's happening. It went pretty fast. We got near the end, it slowed down to finish it. You know when you do a live tech demo and nothing works and you don't know how it's supposed to work? I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to do the Y-axis. That's probably a little too fast. You can override the speeds it runs at for several things with the speed override. I'm actually going to crank it down some. That was at 100% speed that we just saw. I'm going to try and do Z again with a slower speed and see what's happening. So I'm going to turn the handle back on, go to manual pulse generation, run it down some, turn it back off, go back to home mode, pick Z, tell it to home. Wait a while. That was happier. I think maybe I told you to get it away from the ends, to have it kind of centered. I don't think I actually got it centered far enough. That was why I got that error earlier. I'm a little confused. It's supposed to be lighting up these lights to show that it is home on each axis, and it's not. I'm just going to go with that for now. So, with the machine home, you can do whatever this machine can do. if we had some G code loaded in there, or if I typed it in, I'd be able to run a program. You can manually do anything by either using this manual pulse generator mode and turning on the handle. Now I could drive my Z-axis down to where I wanted, I could move my Y-axis to where I wanted. I can manually use this to machine something. I have done that. While it's doing this, you can go to position and get a readout of your position. You can also do any manual G-code stuff you want. So I'll come back to that. The other way to move it besides manual pulse generation is jog or incremental jog. So I move to jog mode. I believe. All right, so very slowly, you can see it's moving in the X direction. So I can speed up. It's still pretty slow. And I over traveled X. I went too far in the negative direction. Can I bring it back? Yes, I can bring it back. But that alarm, saying alarm here, is still in there. If I look at the alarm screen, which is this button here, we can still see it's still set. As far as I know in this controller, the only way to make the alarm go away is to push the reset button. Now, I have these positions, and I push reset, I lost them. So hopefully they weren't important. Don't run over the end of travel. Don't try to use it with the air compressor off. That's pretty much the cause of most alarms. So jog works. It doesn't, in my experience, have a nice key way of setting the speed. You can use a G code to set the speed. I'll try and remember how to do that in a second, along with some other G code stuff. Spindle control is on some buttons down here. So counterclockwise, clockwise. There is a potentiometer somewhere, right here, that actually will control the speed. You get some amount of RPM readout here. I just say somewhat because it's an old analog gauge, so I'm sure it's a little iffy, but it's relatively accurate. There's also a meter that tries to show you how much load the spindle is under. If you were doing something with coolant, there is a reservoir back there. You can fill it, you can turn on the coolant here. The pump is back there, and I believe fires up. We don't have any coolant loaded because coolant goes rancid pretty quickly, I think, so we kept it empty. If you truly have a use for it, do it, but you probably have to clean up after yourself. Now, the part I remember the least was actually doing some G-code stuff with it. I believe MDI was manual data entry. Put it in that mode. Go to anybody who remembers how to do this, feel free to tell me. Keep the camera rolling, this is fun for me. Oh, so it's the program button. I assumed that was where I was going to pick an already loaded program, but no. So here you can do manual G-code stuff. This is somewhat similar to any other machine G-code, so if you go search the internet, a lot of it will apply. Some G-codes, if you're not familiar with it, set a mode that stay. For instance, if I were to set the feed rate or the spindle speed, it would show that that's sort of locked in now. Versus other things like moving the bed 1 foot to the right, they're not modal, they just happen when I enter it. So the stuff that's over here that's listed as modal are essentially the things you've locked in that are going to stay. Other things, let's see if I can do this. This keypad here, it's got numbers, it's also got letters mixed into it. So 9 up here has a G on it. I can do G00. input, X, X1000, input. So I believe this is going to do a non-coordinated move. Yeah. So, I think if I push output start, it'll do it. Yeah, it moved 1 millimeter, I think. So the machine is set up in metric, and apparently, by default, it assumes 3 decimal places. So when I said 1,000, it looked to me like it moved 1 millimeter. We could test that and find out. You can do that. I could do a G01 for a coordinated move. Input. I want it to move to X. This time we'll do 10,000 and also Y 10,000. So these are all entered in. I push output start, and it didn't work. Need a feed rate. So we'll try F. I don't know what units this is in, so we'll try 1,000. Alarm. Oh, I need to clear my alarm, and I cleared my G code. Thank you, 1986, Canon. So, with a little actually messing with it, I did machine something that way. I go, well, I want it to move 10 centimeters this way, 10 centimeters this way, and it actually wasn't bad. I would recommend if you want to use it that way. That was 5 months ago, and I don't remember what I did. So, we should probably come up with some cheat sheets and things for quick. Here's how you do this, here's how you do this. But that, to some extent, is the same on all machines. If you go look up how to manually use G-code, that applies to this machine. Yes?
Did you say what flavor of G-code it's using?
Dynamic System 0M?
There's a lot of G-code dialects that end up having different codes for different things.
Yeah, I mean, if you stick to move and spindle control, and those are going to work. It does support arcs, it supports canned drill cycles, it supports a lot of stuff. You can write programs. You can write programs offline, like have Fusion 360 or something do it, and use a serial port to send it to it. It is awful, and you don't want to unless you have a good reason to. However, April-ish, new controller. So when that new controller happens, this thing will be replaced. All the rest of it will be exactly the same. So any skills you get, the machine will be the same.
So do my eyes mistake me, or is there a turret on there too?
Okay, there is a tool changer. I would not recommend trying to use it right now because one of the switches, I don't remember which one, it was a couple years ago, is a little bit gummy and it sometimes doesn't recognize it's where it should be and it'll drop the tool. So for now, don't bother trying. The tools, so this thing is supposed to be mounted on there and there's a cutout where the switch is supposed to be. With the head cover off, this is sitting here. It's low voltage, you're not going to hurt yourself. Pushing this releases the drawbar. So this is a manual input. The buttons over there are manual inputs. They actually only function when you're in manual pulse generator mode. So the tool comes out. Tool goes in. Some of the other stuff on here is from a previous life of the machine. When it was first built, it had a 2-speed gearbox. That was replaced before we got it. We have a single-speed motor now. So like these gear select and neutral, they don't do anything. Don't worry about it. Orient does do something, but it's not probably something you're looking for. It lines up the tool in a known orientation. I guess if you're trying to rigid tap something, that would be good. Which one? Orient? It's already orient. When you're using the handle, if that's how you decide to drive it around to machine something manually, you've got X, Y, and Z up here. The machine itself has the electronics for a fourth axis, but we don't have that fourth axis, so that's what B is. There's also a multiplier here, so that's how fast it moves, but if I crank it down, I go a whole lot slower. I'm not even sure if we're moving right now. It's just very slowly. Like I said, the machine is metric, so these are all millimeters. Just make sure that's a true statement. Go with yes. I do not know much about machining, so I'm not the person to ask about that. There is a vise mounted on here. Very large. There's a bunch of garbage on here too. We can take off. Handle for vise. Lots of tooling. Look up feeds and speeds so you don't break the tooling, and otherwise try it out.
Or ask
Find,
Marvin.
what's that?
Or ask Marvin. Marvin knows
Yeah.
everything.
Find the right balance between being respectful of it, but don't be afraid of it. You'll never learn if you're afraid of it. Wear safety glasses.
Not approved for dental work?
I don't know. There are some doors here if you're trying to keep the chips a little bit contained.
Definitely use the coolants.
So, what about the coolant? Oh, the doors.
Definitely use the doors if you use the
Yeah.
coolants or
There-
the smart.
There is a little air hose plumbed in here so you can blow away chips while it's machining, or if you're trying to clean it off. When you're done, it's a little bit like Windows shutdown. You shouldn't just kill the power. So there is an off button that is currently snapped off that still works. Shut down this entire cabinet on the back and this thing are roughly a IBM PC from the mid-80s. It's a 186. So power it down, then you can kill the main power. Try and remember to turn off the air compressor because there are a little bit of leaks, so it would run otherwise when nobody's using it. If anybody has questions, I can try to see if I know the answer or figure it out. Or people who want to maybe try and get it set up and use it, I'll be here for a few hours.
Is there a way to set zero position on a part?
Yes, which is something about work coordinates versus machine coordinates. Look it up in Google. That's all regular G-code stuff. It's not specific to this machine.
You gotta touch off your part
There probably is one in.
I don't understand.
We definitely used to have one, but it might have been over with the small.
Oh, okay, yeah, it might be. Okay.
There is also, if you're afraid of this, there is a small mill that runs Leadwell CNC, so actually similar to what this will turn into. You can break fewer things on the smaller mill. So if you want a stepping stone, use that.
I want to break big things.
Then use this one.
I'm going to.
Like little things.
If something goes wrong with it, or you do break something, don't try to hide it, because that just makes it worse. Cheyenne.
When I think like, oh, emergency, I need to stop.
What you do is you just run screaming in a circle, and then out the door. Alright, the E-stop is right here. Push to kill it, and then it shows you twist to reset. Here, we'll do it with the power on.
Does it give an alarm when the E-stop hits?
Don't remember. So it switches to not ready, you get the emergency light, but it's not actually setting an alarm. Let me come back and give it a second. So that's the other thing. Those clicks you hear, the e-stop not only tells the controller to stop, it's actually shorting out the phases of all the servo motors. Those big relay chunks are it actually shorting the phases. So when you turn it back on, it takes it a minute, and there it's ready again now.
Okay, so for the foolish questions and really stressy, how do you turn on the spinning yellow light?
You can't. Either that bulb is burnt out, or it was wired to one of the relays that is bad. Jacob Casper and I spent like 3 hours trying, and I now actually understand the wiring diagram of this. It doesn't seem to be there anymore.
Okay.
I apologize deeply. So sometimes, so when I'm gonna ram it to the end on purpose. Okay, so this over travel. Sometimes when it over travels, I think it maybe has to do with how far it over travels. It won't let you move it back. You're stuck. There is a button here that is labeled emergency over travel release. If you hold it down while you move it, you can move it even if it's in that super over travel mode. If you use that to drive it into itself, if you're doing it slowly, it'll go ka-chunk, and those same relays we're hearing when we hit the e-stop will fire and shut down the motors. If you manage to do it at high speed, it'll probably break the ball screws. But I have more than once, when I was working on the switches trying to figure out the over travel, accidentally went the wrong way, and it does. It protects itself at low speed. So that's that button. We'll reset it because still don't know a different way to do it. What else? You already had your question. Yes. Yeah. I should know that. I had to program it in.
Big enough.
Yeah,
Let's
big,
find out.
big enough. Yeah, seems pretty big.
Too slow. Go faster. So among the modes, home, you pretty much only need for homing. There's jog. There's incremental jog, so each click moves one known unit. Manual pulse generator is the handle, and make sure the buttons like that work. Home start is only for when you're in the home mode and you want it to actually start running. Teach is, I don't think, useful. Offset measure, I believe, is for setting the tool offsets in the tool library. Which, if you're getting that far into it, you probably weren't machining by hand, which is what I recommend for now. So you can look at it yourself. Tool offsets. Again, if you want to Google how to do anything, it is a system 0. That's not an O. The M just means it's a machining center. There was also a system 0L for lathes. So system 0 is probably what you want to find for like, my G code failed. What? Oh, system 0 didn't support that G code. Almost certainly won't matter, but if it does, there were 4 versions of the system 0. We have version A, the worst. The worst. When you try to mess with it, run it down, 0 it, run it back. Let us know what the limits are.
Cheyenne had a question.
All right. Oh yeah, Cheyenne. Question 2.
The computer monitor thing, does that move at all, or does that stay?
So it's on a big arm from the back, and it rotates here. So you can rotate, and you can swing the whole arm out. Wherever works for you. It does not move up or down. There is, actually that's probably only the front, no. So it looks like somebody put some air on here. I don't think it's plumbed to mist. But with some valves, you could probably have some automatic air blast there. Automatic, like on all the time. There's no solenoid valve to control the air blast. Oh, so lubrication. There is an oil reservoir on the back with an automatic pump that the CNC system fires as often as they apparently programmed it to fire. So as long as that thing has oil in it, it should be self-lubricating. There is a lube alarm, so I'd like to hope that if that runs out of oil, it will stop. There is a leak on the Z ways. If you look at them, they're oily. They're always oily. If anybody ever wants a project that can fix that, I'm sure that wouldn't take more than a year.
Isn't that just assigning adequate lubrication? Why do you consider the leak excessive?
The guy we bought it from mentioned that it was excessive. And I think it was actually like messing up his coolant. Because he used it all the time. It was a production machine. The program I found loaded in it when we got it was something about making parts for Harley Davidson. So this thing made parts on some motorcycles somewhere. Yes, Cheyenne.
So talking about general maintenance, what do you think? Weekly, monthly?
I've never thought about it.
Depends on what
Until it breaks.
Yeah. So there is, actually there's not a usable hour meter right now. I am building an hour meter in the replacement control system, so we could keep track of how much it's used. To be honest, I would need to consult with someone who knows more about machinery or what is a good idea. I do have all the original manuals for it, and they will be returned here, and I was scanning them, so there's electronic copy. So things like that that are still useful from the 80s, if it has a maintenance plan, we do have that.
How far are you on scanning the manuals?
I've got, actually the manuals are done. I was down to the books that came with System 0
Okay.
and trying to decide whether I was willing to cut the bindings off to scan them or not.
You do know that people are looking for them online.
The manuals or the, so the manuals.
I was one of them, and there
Oh,
was
yeah.
other people looking
No,
for
I
it too.
know. So far, I have found most of the user's manuals for this online in various old forum posts. I have not found the system integrator manuals for version A. You can find lots of stuff for version C that was early to mid 90s.